What is up? What is up? What is up? Boys, we have a lot to cover. I'm not even going to bother asking how you guys are doing today because there's so many bigger things to go on to. We have news about UFC 267, UFC 266, or no, sorry, 276, 277. We have this past week's event, which I know we're going to get into pretty quickly here. We have UFC 274 this weekend. I know I said I wasn't going to say how are you guys doing. Boys, how are you doing?
I'm so fucking stoked for this weekend, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe the amount of news that's been positive that we have received this week, all because Dana White didn't realize where he was doing an interview from. And holy shit, the world has been turned upside down in the UFC. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the boring stuff. And by boring stuff, it's really not even boring. Chito Vera versus Rob Font. Before we get into the main event, what fights do we want to talk about here? Sam, let's start with you.
I mean, throughout the card, it was just pretty much domination all throughout. One guy just dominated, or one fighter dominated the other.
There's one that it didn't.
I mean, I'll talk about it. I mean, you guys called it beforehand. I kind of was rooting for a guy who started out the main card, Mershart.
Well, that's not even the
because
one
he's
I was
Wisconsin.
talking about. That's not the one I was talking about, but yes, I agree.
But yeah.
Sorry,
Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about. Hunter, I'm sure you're going to touch on this one.
No, I don't think so. So mine's different. Mine's Andre Arlovski's fight.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Okay, yeah. I think. Who do you think won that fight?
I think Andre Arlovski lost that fight. But let's be real. Like, Sal Diamato was the judge. We've talked about him on the show. I've told you guys that he is not the most reliable when it comes to these things. And he was the deciding factor. He went on Andre Arlovski.
Which goes to show you a lot. Look, I think Arlovski's going to keep bagging these wins. I think he just tied Cerrone, right?
Yep.
He tied Miller and Cerrone. So if Cerrone wins against Lazone, that's obviously, we'll talk about that later. But Arlovski's a legend, but I don't think he won that fight at all, man.
Craziness has been all over the sport. But yeah, I agree. That caused an uproar because Jake Collier won that fight. Even though I told everyone to bet Andre Arlovski, it ends up being a winning bet. I don't feel good about it. He did not win that fight. By any stretch of the imagination, it actually shocks me that two judges were able to give it to him. But hey, that's the MMA world. Fight that I want to talk about a little bit. My boy, Jared Gordon. I know you listen to this show. Didn't happen this time around, but I also didn't think it was the worst performance. His coaches have now stepped up, kind of taking responsibility, saying the entire camp, they said if he got to the ground, the only thing was don't give him his back. So it didn't really sound like they prepared him well enough for the fight. Now, Jared Gordon definitely lost that fight. And I think right before he got submitted, I said, like, oh, yeah, there's no chance unless there's a finish. Well, there was a finish, but it just didn't go Jared Gordon's way. So easy loss for Jared Gordon, which I told you guys to bet on.
That puts Grant Dawson on the map, man. He's toward the top 10 opponent soon.
Part of the reason I didn't take him was just because he just had switched over to American Top Team, which probably would have been more reason to take him now looking back at it, because he got a whole new perspective on the sport. Even though we've seen American Top Team struggle at times, it was a whole new coaching staff, which he was able to build on what he had previously been learning. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Grant Dawson, though, great performance. He won all 3 rounds, ends up submitting him in, I believe, the last minute and a half.
With 4 minutes and 11 seconds into the third round.
Last minute, and great fight for Grant Dawson getting the win. Now, Chito Vera versus Rob Font is an interesting story because Chito Vera, on all of our scorecards, I'm sure, won that fight, whether it was 49-46 or 48-47. I believe we all would have had Chito. However, if you said just the first 2.5 minutes of each round, it's probably 50-45 Rob Font.
Yeah, he was landing the volume early every round, but all the big shots came from Chito. Keep in mind, it's obviously you can go off volume sometimes here and there, but when you take that amount of damage, the amount of knockdowns, all the big shots went to Chito. He looked impressive, man.
Yeah, I mean, Font outstruck Chito by over 100 strikes, and Font was definitely the one that took all the damage or most of the damage.
It wasn't even close. When you would have just looked at those two guys and put up the numbers and didn't say who hit who the amount of times, you definitely would have thought it was reversed. Chito has a fucking punch. If that's what he's able to do to Rob Font couldn't do shit to Chito Vera. Chito Vera puts his name right up there at the top, possibly for a title shot within 2 fights, which is crazy to me.
Who do you want to see him face next?
I want to see. Yeah, let's go around. Who do you want him to face next?
I want him to face Peter Yan. Yan's coming off a loss. I want Yan's comeback fight against Chito, and it's a win-win. Yan wins, he's right back in the title picture. Chito wins, now you have a whole new fight for the belt.
I think there's only 2 options here. Sam, I'll let you go after me. I had written it in my article. The only 2 options for me are Peter Yan and Corey Sandhagen. I'd rather see Peter Yan, just because for Peter Yan, a win puts him right back in. For Chito, again, puts him right in. So I feel like winner of that fight goes in unless there's a Henry Cejudo, TJ Dillashaw battle for the top, which those would be the next 2 fighters for a championship in the bantamweight division. So Sam, who do you have him fighting next?
So, I mean, this guy did come off of beating Rob Font as well.
It'd be a rematch.
I think the power in the division would be nice to see, because it looks, at least these top guys, it looks like the 2 most powerful are Chito and Jose.
And that'd be a rematch too. But it was Chito of years ago. So
yeah. I mean, I think it would be a fun fight, but I think it has to be Yan.
I think so too. I think that just makes the most amount of sense. A fight with Corey Sandhagen, even with a win, still puts him 1 fight away. So it's kind of like, would I rather be 1 fight away or 0 fights away? I give it 0. I think Peter Yan makes the most sense. For Peter Yan, who else would he fight would be a question. It can't be Dominic Cruz. He'll run over Dominic Cruz, even though I love Dominic. But it just can't make that fight. So Dominic Cruz versus Jose Aldo. And
that's the fight to make if Yan and Chito, face.
That makes most sense to me too. So I don't know. That's where I feel about this entire fight. I don't really know if there's much more to be said other than Chito just put a beating on Rob Font.
It was a great fight by both guys too. Rob's coming forward. Rob hit him with some good strikes. It was an elite fight. It was a great fight night card.
Shout out to how tough these boys from Boston are between him and Kelvin Keator. We've seen them get their asses beat and not knocked out. Whereas we've seen people get standing knockouts in the UFC. So for the UFC to know to not call off these fights and for them to just take an ass whooping and still believe that they're in the fight for all 25 minutes, crazy to me. Respect to them. I still want to have Kelvin Keator on the show very badly. He's going to be fighting in Austin, not August, in Austin on June 18th. Boys, let's get into the first of fight announcements. Austin, June 18th, a fight night outside of the Apex. It sounds like the days of the Apex are finally over, starting in June. We have Kevin Holland fighting against, who's he fighting against? He made a grand fight announcement.
170 and older dude, I think. Hold up, let me look.
Let me check. Holland.
But I know we're getting Kelvin Keator and Josh Emmett.
Banger.
And who was Holland fighting?
It does on ESPN. All it says is Keator Emmett. It says everything else has to be announced.
I know.
Which, I mean, according to that post by Dana, it might already be announced.
Yeah, we'll get way more into that. But the main event in Austin, Texas.
Tim Means.
Oh, Tim Means. That's who it was.
Yep.
Tim Means versus Kevin Holland, which is probably going to be your co-main event for a fight night card. And Kelvin Keator versus Josh Emmett. A great featherweight matchup in my mind in that division. We got to be going to Austin, Texas in middle of June. I know my birthday's next weekend. I don't see there's any reason to not go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Austin, Texas, the first one to be announced outside the Apex. It seems like consistently starting from that point. Is there anything you guys want? Like, who's your early favorite in that main event?
I mean, I'm just excited because it's gonna be a stand-up fight. These guys are gonna bang the whole time. It's gonna be. There's no takedowns really gonna be involved unless Emmett attempts something, but he won't. It's gonna be the power of Emmett and the volume of Keator. So I'm excited to see it.
I absolutely love that fight. Not as much though as I love the main card of International Fight Week that was leaked in a Dana White interview because he did it in the wrong room. Saturday, July 2nd, we're going to be starting off the main card with Pedro Munoz versus Sean O'Malley.
Woo!
He's known as Prelims Pedro. Sean O'Malley, the Sugar Show. That's going to be kicking off International Fight Week out of Las Vegas. We're going to then move into Lauren Murphy with Misha Cupcake Tate. We all know who we're going to be cheering for in that fight. No need to jump further in. Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. That was the only fight that we knew was confirmed for the entire event. Yep. Hamzat Shemaev versus Nate Diaz.
Maybe on that one. It's not confirmed yet, right?
That one's pretty much confirmed if Dana's got it on the board. It's official in my book. We'll jump into that because we knew it was going to be either Nate Diaz or Conor McGregor on International Fight Week. We now know which one it's going to be. And the main event for the middleweight championship of the UFC, Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. Boys, which one are you most excited for? Let's even go with which one are you least excited for? Sam, let's start it off with you.
Honestly, the one I'm most excited for is probably the Sean Strickland fight.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Which one are you least excited for?
I'm least excited for the Hamzat versus Nate Diaz. I think it's just going to be an ass whooping one way.
All right. Hunter.
Yeah, that could be a bloodbath. I'm most excited to see Conor O'Malley against top 10 competition. O'Malley Munoz is going to be a fucking brawl. I'm pumped for that fight. Least excited in terms of excitement of the fight itself is Adesanya and Cannonier, because I just feel like they're two guys that are going to make the fight boring. And that's what Adesanya's been doing lately. So, but obviously as a fight fan, that's the two best in the world at middleweight right now. So that's exciting, but the fight itself will not be like all the other four are just bangers. You know what I mean? Maybe Misha Tate one might get boring, but it's never boring.
It's never boring with Misha. Let's just put it that way. I'm completely opposite. I think Nate Diaz versus Hamzat is the most exciting fight of this. Not because I think Nate Diaz has a chance, but I'm excited to see Nate Diaz come out here and claim that he is going to derail or try to derail the two biggest hype trains probably of all of history in the UFC. He was the guy that beat Conor McGregor. Can he be the guy that beats Hamzat Shemaev? You know that's how they're going to sell this event. Like, there's no chance that they're basing this off of Adesanya versus Cannonier. It's Nate Diaz versus Hamzat. The fight that I'm least excited for is the title fight. I love Adesanya. I think that he's awesome. I do think he's one of the best in the world. But his fight style doesn't appeal to fans, and I totally understand why. As an MMA fanatic, I love Adesanya. I think he's so technical. He does everything the exact way you're supposed to do it. Sometimes that's the most boring way, though, because he doesn't take many risks, and neither does Jared Cannonier. So it's probably going to be pretty laid back, and it's going to be a lot of points, and I would almost guarantee that fight will go to decision.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. But that wasn't the only card that got accidentally leaked. UFC 277 was also leaked in this interview, which we are down to 4 finalist cities: Salt Lake City, Chicago, Boston and Dallas. Now, I know what many people are thinking. Oh, well, the UFC has a history of being in Vegas. It makes sense to go to Salt Lake City because it's so close. The week before is UFC London. So we do have to take into part what Dana White's team will be traveling from. I actually rule Salt Lake City out of this. I'm going to rule out Dallas out of this. I think Dallas will get a pay-per-view this year. I don't think it's going to be a warm weather month where in Texas it's going to be so hot and they could capitalize on a winter event there. Boston and Chicago make the most sense. I'm going to rule out Boston until Conor McGregor gets back and his Irish roots are able to shine in the most Irish city in America. I'm going to almost place a guaranteed bet. This event is in Chicago. If you look back at the history, typically Chicago gets an early August, late July event. So with that being said, you might be thinking, well, Chicago is a shithole. Like, who would they possibly give to fight in that shitty city, you know, as some people on this podcast might think. But the person that they put on to fight is a Midwesterner versus the greatest MMA fighter of all time, Stipe Miocic versus Jon Jones. There was rumor from dumbass Ariel Helwani that they were not going to make this fight and Stipe declined it. There's no way that's true. Stipe versus Jon Jones, main event. We're going to get a Derrick Lewis fight. And what was the other fight on that?
Wasn't it Tuivasa?
It was Ankalaev.
Oh, yeah. It was Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith. Those are three fights that I definitely see happening in Chicago.
Didn't they announce? They announced in London was Cyril Gane versus Tuivasa.
No, in Paris in the fall.
France.
In London, we are going to get Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall, and now Jack Hermanson versus Darren Till as the co-main.
Oof.
Boys, July is going to be a crazy month. Do not work on Saturdays. Make sure you get your Saturday nights off. That's what I can only say. What of those three events right away make the eyes pop? Which ones are the ones that we need to see?
Yeah, Jones and Stipe. I mean, if that's in Chicago too, you know, obviously me and Jake and I, we live here. We would love to go to that event. And that would just be his return fight against Stipe on a pay-per-view in the Windy City. You can't beat that, man.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, the two ones that I'd be most excited for is that Gane Tuivasa in Paris. But you got to go Jones Stipe, especially with Derrick Lewis being the co-main on that.
No, it's not even the co-main. They're playing
it's not
bigger. Derrick Lewis versus Sergey Pavlovich was the event, or was the fight. No, they have that as the third fight. They still have a TBD versus TBD as that second fight, which makes me believe that it's probably going to be a title fight. I would not be shocked if that's also right at the end of the Ultimate Fighter, and Juliana Pena, champion right now, trains in Chicago. Could we be getting Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes as the co-main? 5 rounds, baby. Let's go. You're talking about the greatest women's fighter of all time, the greatest men's fighter of all time, the big city of Chicago, the Midwest powerhouse. Give it to us at the United Center. I dare you. The place will be packed. The place will sell out within minutes. There's no better place to do this. Right now, if you look at Tapology, they do put it at Madison Square Garden. And I did some research on the train. There's been literally zero talk about Madison Square Garden. I think some moron just wrote that in, hoping that it'd be there because it's a Jon Jones fight card.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all the news. We really didn't have any negative news, and we really didn't have any crazy oh, there's one more thing that happened this week. I don't know if you guys watched The Ultimate Fighter episode 1 happened a day early for some reason. Yeah, I think ESPN may have screwed that up. Did you guys watch episode 1 of The Ultimate Fighter?
Was it tonight?
It was yesterday.
Oh, I did not see it.
So I will quickly cover it because I guess I am the only one, and I did watch it while running on a treadmill. So if I missed some parts, I do apologize. On I'm very shocked at the ability of Amanda Nunes to control an audience. Juliana Pena, she clearly shows so much passion for the sport. She loves the sport. I see her as a future coach for a very long time after this fight career is over. If she's not a coach, she will be announcing fights. The only thing that I have to complain about is during the fight, which was a men's heavyweight fight, which for the two of you, I will not ruin it. The only issue I have is Juliana Pena screaming at the top of her lungs during the entire fight. She is probably the most annoying voice I can possibly think of. So during the fight, please turn your volume down if you guys have not watched episode 1, because you guys will save your ears from just being absolutely destroyed for about 10 minutes. Yeah, so that's where I am. Overall, the coaches are awesome. I have my favorites. I have Hannah Guy as the women's flyweight champ of this competition. Now, Hannah Guy, you guys may have heard the name through a good friend of ours, Ben Parrish. The only reason I'm saying her is because her lifestyle matches up perfectly for this show. And she is very talented. I've seen her fight. She fought against Valerie Lareda, if you guys have ever heard of her, in Bellator. Then went and fought once in bare knuckle, which wasn't really her style because she's a jiu-jitsu girl, and did not disappoint there either. She did get the loss there, but it was not bad. And now she's here, the Ultimate Fighter. For some reason, Bellator didn't sign her to a big deal, which made no sense. But I have her as my favorite in the women. And in the men, I do have Muhammad Usman. You guys may know the last name. He is the brother of current welterweight champion Kamaru Usman. And that is what I'm going with for the season. If you guys...
What weight is Usman at?
Heavyweight.
Oh, he's a big boy.
He's a big boy. He's from Denver. He trains with Curtis Blades. And I can't remember who's the other one at that gym, but another heavyweight. And I thought he composes himself well, and that probably comes with the last name. He's probably got a lot of training on it. So I do think that plays a huge part in this show, especially when you're pretty much isolated for 8 weeks. So I have a lot of trust in him. There's also a cop from Denver that I can't think of his name. He was actually the one that fought this week. He's going to be another competitor. I would almost guarantee it's going to be Usman versus him in the final. The only other thing, this was the other one that we talked about this week in our group chat. By the news of Nate Diaz versus Hamzat Chimaev, that leaves 2 names that still do not have fights, 2 names that have been highly ranked, as high as number 1 in both of their respective divisions, who were challenging the 2 of them, getting left off. And what perfect way to make that 165 division. We're still talking about it. Colby Covington versus Dustin Poirier. What do we think the chances are now that we're getting more and more info that Nate Diaz and Hamzat Chimaev will fight?
Nate, with the Dustin and Kobe?
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen. I actually do. I think it's time. There's so much bundle at the top of the tier at 155, 170. It just makes sense. And I think, like you said, them announcing that fight makes it just that much more appealing, because we all thought it was Kobe and Hamzat, and it's not. So
Dana had already tried to say that it was going to be that free ABC event, and
he wants to fight, man. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's all up to Dustin if he wants to fight Colby at 165.
Yeah, it's true too.
I don't know if Dustin wants to go up 10 pounds and fight Colby.
I don't even know if I should say go down or go up 10 pounds. It's just cut 10 less pounds of weight, because this man weighs in at like 190 during the week. 186, I believe, is what he keeps saying. So, I mean, I don't even think it's a challenge to fit 165. Does he want to fight Kobe Covington?
Look, you know how confident Kobe is in fighting Dustin, and they trained together for so long, so he knows he can beat him. Dustin's not good about fighting Kobe except for outside the octagon. So I think it's clear that Kobe beat him every time they sparred back in the day. And I think Dustin doesn't want that fight, because if he did, he would be like, I'll fight him in the park, but that's it. Like, shut up. Go fight him in the octagon.
Yeah, park with a fucking knife in your hand, I hope, because that's
he's gonna sucker punch him like game bread.
Yeah, did you guys see the pictures that came out of Colby?
No.
Crack truth.
He did lose a tooth. It's pretty real, but I actually didn't think he looked as bad as I would have expected.
No,
To
he
be
just got
100% honest. Like, he had a red face, but like we get red
Yep.
faces if we drink alcohol. So like, what's the
Yeah.
difference? Speaking of Game Red, did you guys see that he and Gilbert Burns are talking on Twitter about fighting?
I think Jorge needs to fight somebody that can't take him down and beat him up.
I think that's a terrible matchup for Masvidal. I don't know why he's saying let's go, let's do this.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be
Unless
fun to
it's-
watch this to see him stand and bang, but
It might be just to get back at the good graces of the UFC, because after this entire last couple of months, it's not been too great for him, even though he just signed that massive contract.
I feel like he has to take a fight that Dana tells him to at this point. He fucked up, but
Yeah, he screwed up pretty badly, and you can actually listen to him on the Impulsive podcast, which I hate to say that I listen to quite often. He actually talked about it in pretty clear depth without having to actually say that he was in it with Logan Paul. But that's what it comes down to. Do we want to go to boxing news, or do we want to go straight into UFC 274?
I would do 274.
All right, let's
Yeah,
do 274. Early prelims, actually. Fights that you guys are looking forward to. Sam, let's start with you. Is there a fight on the early prelims that gets you just riled up?
I mean, I want to see this guy fight again. Fiallo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think wasn't he on the he was on the main card of the last pay-per-view he fought on, I think, too.
That I can't remember. And he's fighting Van Camp, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, here it is. Fiallo is minus 400. Van Camp is plus 310.
Oh, yeah. I think he was on the main card of that Nagano Gon fight versus Pereira.
So when they just put anyone on that card.
Yeah. His last fight was fight night in April. It's kind of a quick turnaround.
Yeah, what the heck?
He must have not got touched too big.
Yeah, he won. It was a first round TKO in that Luke Muhammad fight card, which wasn't that far away. That was up to the 16th.
That was recent.
Yeah, that's very recent.
I was gonna say him too, but at 125, Brandon Hoyval, he's fun to watch. And
He's on the normal prelims. He's the first fight of the prelims.
Oh, you're talking about early prelims?
Yeah.
There's a chick fight or a female fight, whatever.
Gato.
The Gato girl, yeah. I'm excited to watch that one because they both have really good records, I believe.
And then Gato Cortez.
Yep.
Yeah. You know T City is gonna be in the arena. I wonder if they'll announce a fight that T City is there. Kind of would make sense because they'll be able to pan over. Fight for me that I'm pretty excited for is the Loopy Godinez versus Ariana Karne Elassie. I had to make sure I pronounced that correct. I actually really like Loopy Godinez. I think that she is a very underrated fighter. I'm excited to see what she can do. I think every time she gets out there, she shocks me with something. So I never bet on her. I never bet against her. She just goes out there and puts on one hell of a show. So, like, I'm excited to see what she can do. I'm excited to see if she pulls off something that just shocks me like she does every single other time. I think she's just a fun fight to watch. So she's, I believe, the second fight of the night. So head over there, watch Loopy Godinez, and watch wherever your bar allows you to. And if you guys are gambling, gamble responsibly, but also use BetMGM. BetMGM is your friendly sports book. They are the king of sports book. They are your Vegas getaway away from home, or if you are going to Vegas, they own like half the entire casinos on the strip. So go over to a BetMGM resort and we will be your friends over there. Hold on, I just got a weird notification. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Prelims, we touched on it. I'm with you, Brandon Royval. Sam, do you have another fight on the prelims that you're looking forward to?
Not really. Nothing has been already announced. Oh, on the early prelims or prelims?
Prelims.
Yeah, not really.
The main event, the Randy Brown fight's gonna be. Randy Brown brings it every time. I'm excited to watch him. I believe who's he got again?
Chaos Williams. That's not an easy fight.
A great fight, man. That's a pick 'em, I believe, probably dead even.
Minus 115 to minus 105.
It's dead even. So like that's a fight you want to watch. It's gonna be a banger. It's someone's getting knocked out. That fight's not going the distance.
I agree. And Brandon Royval against Matt Schnell is not a joke either. So
start with this main card.
Yeah, start main card. Cowboy versus who's he facing against?
Zone.
Yeah, Zone. Well, who do you guys have? I'll start with you, Hunter.
I have Cowboy, man. I don't know if you guys saw the interview. He was crying. He was talking about walking out to his kid, knowing that that's what he does. I'm excited to see him back, man. He's a freaking beast. I love Cowboy. I've always loved Cowboy. I think he walks through Joe Zone unless he gets submitted, though. It's going to be an interesting fight.
I think this is a win or get cut fight for Cowboy. And I've probably said that about his last 3 fights.
Well, Dana already said that. He said this is a win or get cut fight. The Tony Ferguson Chandler fight's not a win or get cut fight, but this one is.
As it should be. I mean, when you put Tony Ferguson against Michael Chandler, you kind of have to expect the worst. So agreed. I have Donald Cerrone winning this fight though. Sam, how about you?
Cowboy too.
Cowboy. All right, and the next fight of the main card is a big time throwback fight. If you've been a fan of the UFC for quite some time, this fight is the fight for you. We have Shogun Rua versus Ovince St. Preux. Many people probably remember St. Preux from his fight against Jon Jones when he had the infamous walkout to I'm Coming Home. Boys, I'm just honored to watch this fight. Like, I'm happy about it. Like, I don't know if I can pick a winner. I probably will go St. Preux, but I'm not sure, like, there's really a winner or a loser to this fight when you're a fan.
I mean, this is the retirement fight for Shogun. He said this is it for him. So if you guys watched their first fight, OSP knocked him out pretty quick. I'm excited to watch it, but Shogun's washed, man. OSP is going to run through him. It's going to be cool to see him walk out one more time, but he's washed.
Sam?
I mean, I wasn't even that big into the UFC until about over a year ago. And I knew who Shogun was. So I'm going Shogun.
One last time for Sam. He just wants to see it one last time.
The legend.
Now, this next fight is been talked about, and for good reason. Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler is coming into this saying, expect a masterclass performance. This is the best shape he's ever been in, including his Bellator days, is what he's saying. I don't know what to take out of that. When you're Tony Ferguson, you're just out there to fight. You're a less illiterate version of Nate Diaz, if you're Tony Ferguson. So I'm taking Michael Chandler. I really don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. I think that this fight will go the distance because Tony Ferguson's tough as hell. But I don't have any issue saying I think Michael Chandler wins this fight.
Bro, I love Michael Chandler. And I think we're going to see a new Tony Ferguson, though. Tony Ferguson, mark my words, will upset Michael Chandler this weekend. He will upset.
All right. Well,
I think Michael Chandler is going to make Tony Ferguson look like Gaethje made Chandler look.
Gaethje made Tony look like that too, but I think he's going to go back to his wrestling. His pace is going to be too much. And I think he's going to submit Chandler.
I don't know if the wrestling's going to outpower Chandler's wrestling, though.
It's not about that. He can still submit him. Kevin Lee was a better wrestler than what's his face? Tony Ferguson wasn't. He submitted Kevin Lee, so.
That's true. Sorry about the fist bumps. I was fist bumping Luis Robert, even though he might be injured now. Title fight number 1 of the night, which is the women's strawweight championship rematch. Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. Last time we saw Rose, it was against Weili Zhang. UFC 268 at Madison Square Garden. I think this fight is a little bit easier for her, but I'm not sure I expect the same result. I'm still going to go Rose, but I think she's going to have to finish Carla to get the win. If this fight goes the distance, I think I'm going to take Carla. I think Carla knows how to get some points out of the judges. I don't feel very confident in this fight. I would take the over 2.5 or over 3.5 even. But that's where I stand in this fight. Sam, let's start with you.
I think Carla's going to get her belt back. The first time I ever saw Rose was that Weili Zhang fight, and I didn't think she looked that good.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know if I agree with that one.
I mean,
Look,
I also kind of had to take the dog out during the fight because I didn't want to miss Colby.
We're talking about like
Usman.
115-pound girls. Like, how great can they look? Like, that's where you got to put it into comparison.
here's
Hunter,
what
how
I'm
about you?
I'm gonna back Sam on this one because Carla's beat her once, and I think Carla's just she's gonna force Rose to wrestle the whole fight and make it boring. It will be, if Carla wins, it'll be boring. If Rose wins, she's just gonna piece her up the whole fight. It's gonna be boring. She'll kill her. I think Carla can do it, dude. I really think she's gonna find a way to get her to the fence, get the takedowns, make it long, make it boring, maybe even submit her. I got Carla, man. I got 2 upsets back to back. Run it.
Like I said, I have Rose if it's inside distance, Carla if it goes to distance. Now the main event of the evening, the lightweight champion of the world, which is still the #1 division in the UFC. I don't care what anyone says. Charles Oliveira facing off against Justin Gaethje. A fight that Justin Gaethje has probably deserved for a while, if we're being completely real. His title shot was against Khabib, which there's not many people in the world that could beat Khabib at 155. I'm saying that because I think there's a few people that could have came down from 170 to beat him. Possibly that would fight Dustin Poirier soon, but Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira. Who do you guys have and why? Hunter, let's start with you.
Gaethje by manslaughter. Justin Gaethje's gonna walk through him and beat him up in the first round.
If Justin Gaethje wins this fight, who does he fight next?
Connor for the belt.
Yeah. Okay. Sam?
I'm going Charles. I think
All right.
Charles is going to take him down and submit him.
And I guess it's worth asking, if Charles wins this fight, who does he fight next?
I would say Islam, but I think he's not in Dana's good graces at all.
Right.
So I think.
Is it Connor?
I mean, I think I don't like the matchup. Oliveira versus Connor. I don't think Connor would match up well against Oliveira.
No, I don't either.
No, neither do I. But
I'm going to take Gaethje because I saw Chandler get pieced up a little bit in the first round by Poirier, who doesn't have as nearly as much power as Gaethje does. And we've seen Gaethje fight against Khabib, and Khabib, as much as we wish we could have saw Khabib versus Oliveira, Khabib's a much better wrestler than Oliveira.
People need to stop this whole jiu-jitsu shit. Khabib would maul Oliveira.
Yeah.
He would down and his jiu-jitsu wouldn't work because he'd be getting beat up. Khabib was a different level of grappling. And so the only good fight for Khabib ever was a GSP or a Usman type of guy or a Colby, you know?
Yeah.
These jiu-jitsu boys aren't going to hang with Khabib. So, yeah.
I'm going Gaethje, and then I'm having him fight Connor next, which is crazy to me to say. Connor's going to get it. So, yeah, Connor versus Gaethje, that makes the most sense to me. Boys, that's UFC 274. What are your plans for it? Let's just go around the table. What is everyone doing for the fights? Sam, are you working? You better not be.
I probably am.
Oh no.
Sam.
I want it off for the draft.
You know what? Just quit your job.
That's gonna be at the end of the month.
Okay. Hunter.
I think one of my buddies having a watch party. We're not sure yet, though. I'm also a bouncer on the weekends, so if I have to pick up a shift, I will because I can watch it for free then,
Yeah.
Shout out Anthony's Restaurant and Pub in Joliet, Illinois.
I'm going to probably be going out to a bar only because there's also a great boxing pay-per-view taking place this weekend.
Yeah.
Canelo.
And I don't really want to spend money on 2 pay-per-views, so I might as well just go to a bar and spend the same amount of money.
On drinks.
Canelo versus Bivol. I'm not even going to ask you guys who you guys have winning this fight because that's a given. Let's just talk some boxing talk for the last 10 minutes of the show. Why is it that Canelo can't get a real opponent that actually challenges him? Can we kind of...
I'll tell you why, Jake. Because he's just that fucking good. You act like he's not trying to fight the best guys he can. They're giving him people and he's beating them.
Yeah.
You give him the best guys, he's beating them.
Who hasn't he fought?
Who hasn't he fought?
Yeah, who hasn't they thrown at him that he hasn't fought already?
You know what? And you're right. That's
so
that is the issue though, is that boxing is, I'm not going to say dying because it's not, but boxing needs a couple more stars to it. And I wish we could see a Canelo fight against someone that was a lot higher talented than Bivol. The last time Canelo fought someone in my mind that was a true test, that's not true. The biggest test of his life was obviously Mayweather. But
and that's why Floyd's the GOAT, because Canelo's one deficiency in his career is against the untouchable.
Yeah.
Mayweather.
But I'm just saying Canelo needs some competition. Tyson Fury, as much as everyone wants to see him fight Ngannou, that's not the fight to make. The fight to make is against Anthony Joshua. And you guys can jump in at any point because I'm just kind of speaking my mind on boxing right now. We saw a great fight last weekend between Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor walks off with a decision. Jake Paul didn't like it very much, but who cares about what Jake Paul wants to think? We did get to see Eddie Hearn celebrate and actually mock Jake Paul throughout the entire weekend, which was pretty awesome.
Did you see who he's fighting in August?
Yeah, that's where I was going with this. Jake Paul is actually going to fight a real boxer. From
Tommy Fumbles.
No, I heard it wasn't Tommy Fumbles. Wait, hold up.
No, I heard it was. I heard they're agreeing to actually fight in August.
So then that was the fight that was supposed to replace the champion fighter that Eddie Hearn had thrown out his name, I believe, from one of those Slovakian countries in Europe. They gave him a legitimate champion fight, and immediately Jake Paul said, well, I'm only 6 fights or whatever in my boxing career. I can't fight that quickly for a belt. So Jake Paul does, in fact, know.
He's smart. Jake Paul also realizes he could get to that level, a championship level eventually, but he's not there right now. He could. You guys don't sleep on him. He might win this next one. I'm not.
Well, also, if Jake Paul loses, that pretty much loses all interest that people have in him because he has that loss.
Yeah, if Jake Paul loses this fight, it's over for him.
The more that he keeps on winning, even if it's against weaker competition, he can still say, I'm undefeated in boxing. And that's going to get people to want to watch him lose. But as soon as he loses, they're like, well, what's the point in watching this guy anymore?
I agree with Sam on that. But into a different division, heavyweight division, Tyson Fury, who do we think he's actually going to fight next?
He announced his retirement, bro.
Officially?
Yeah, he said he's
still talking about Ngannou.
He said the only person he'd fight would be Francis. He's not going to fight again. And he said he'd do it under MMA gloves, boxing rules, but he said he's not going to fight anymore for boxing. So
that's really sad.
Yeah.
We've heard this out of boxers and they come back, so who knows? But I do actually take Tyson Fury for his word this time around. So we'll see what happens. Other boxing news. Shakira Stevenson took care of business this last weekend. I forget who he was fighting, but that was unbelievable for performance by him. He, I believe, won 11 rounds to 1, or he only lost 1 round. Was it 12-round fight?
Yeah, 12.
So I think he won 11 rounds to 1. Wasn't much of a challenge. He danced around him. That's pretty much our boxing talk for today. I don't think there was too much.
There's not a lot in boxing nowadays.
Shout out to
Canelo and Tyson.
But again, shout out to Serrano and Katie Taylor for being the first female fight to headline Madison Square Garden, which if you guys have never been to Madison Square Garden, I highly recommend it. There's really no arena that I've ever seen quite like it. It's not the biggest arena, and it's definitely not the smallest, but I don't think I've ever seen an environment quite like that. So if you can get your way out to New York City to go to Madison Square Garden, highly recommend it, especially it's for a UFC or boxing event. Boys, do you have anything else you guys want to put into the show? Otherwise, I guess it ended up actually being a little bit shorter than our last couple.
Good. Yeah, no, I'm just so stoked for the fights coming up. We're gonna figure some out, maybe cool to like put on our socials leading up to the fights. But I'm so pumped for Saturday, man.
Yeah, definitely. Sam?
Yeah, I just can't. Hopefully, if I do have off, I'll watch them, but can't wait for next weekend, the following weekend as well.
Definitely. All right, boys and girls, we'll see you guys next week. We'll hope to try to get 2 episodes next week. I can't guarantee it, but we're going to try our best. So we'll see you guys. Peace. Stay healthy. Stay clean. You filthy animals. We love you. Bye.